Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Happy Hump Day. Clearly, it's Wednesday, as you can see by the camel in the thumbnail. Oh, I'll be glad when this background looks a lot cooler when we get this moved over here. Still waiting for a couple things to clear out. I had to fix a roof leak in the general area where this is all going to, so that would have been a problem. So there's been some setbacks there, but yeah, there's you can kind of see the belts behind me now. My TNA championship, my US championship, my big Ric Flair gold is on top. It's just laying down so that it doesn't sit on the leather. And then I have John Cena's belt behind me. But eventually all the belts are gonna go in a column in front of here, and I'll sit up above it, and then this TV will be behind me. But welcome. This is just going to be a general open topic. We've hit the topics that we needed to hit. I'm tired of talking about Superman's costume, so I don't think we'll hit that today. Everything else is just rumors and bullshit, and I don't feel like weighing down the show with that. So it's just going to be you guys, and Brad will probably be in a couple minutes if he's not, taking his nap. So also, if you'd like to leave a tip and support the channel, the Streamlabs tip link is pinned to the top of the chat. It goes to things like this, the equipment, the programming, the actual stream yards programming that we use, things like that. That makes it so that we can get everybody on there instead of having limitations that the little free one gives you. And it goes to my what I call the public safety caffeine fund, which means the more caffeinated I am, the safer the general public is, because without it, fuck everybody. What's going on, Brett? All right. Well, like I said, I don't think anything.
Yeah, not that I saw. No real well, other than the closest to a big topic I saw today was this news that apparently HBO Max, Disney Plus, and Hulu are going to do some kind of bundle offer, this summer or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually been out for a little bit. It's going to start with the sports because of the sports package that each of them offer. They're going to consolidate their sports packaging. So that's actually been out. I don't. That's better for the consumer, but I don't. What that does also mean is that you're going to get a lot of these movies almost. I mean, you think the fast tracking is not fast enough now. It's literally going to speed up because they're going to want to get that content to where they're making the most money from it, and that's not the theaters. Speaking of that, Abigail's literally shit. I'm still giving away Abigail t-shirts, and it's on streaming. It'll be on streaming like soon, like I think tomorrow. Or
yeah. When did they? I would have thought that Boy Kills World, we would have gotten that streaming date already. It's like, because again, it's like I have zero doubt it will be by Memorial Day, but they just haven't put out the date yet.
Well, I think it'd be sooner than that. I know Godzilla's on this weekend, right? Godzilla -1 is on. It's in
Yeah,
places this week.
apparently, yeah.
I've seen people with physical media on
I
there.
mean, you can pre-order get Boy Kills World. I'm looking at it on Amazon right now. You can pre-order it, but it's just not, it doesn't have a date yet. But again, that's going to be a quick turnaround. Ungentlemanly Warfare, apparently that's going to be very on. Oh, it is now. It's on the. It's going to be 9th at like 9 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, see, and it does make me think a little bit more about how how these superhero movies going forward how will you judge the success, because like I said, I don't want to hear what fans consider a bomb anymore, because that means absolutely nothing. I want to know what the actual money collectors consider a success or a failure. Because okay, so say if you spend 185 million on a movie and you get close to making that, maybe you come in a little bit under. What are your numbers on PVOD and everywhere else? To where does that justify? Because people can't say that it doesn't, that those numbers don't matter, because you can clearly see that these studios already have streaming dates before they even consider these movies. Like, they know exactly how long Abigail was staying in the theaters. They've gauged that. They've gauged Monkey Man. They've gauged all of these before they even went forward with them. So,
Murphy, you want to say hi? No, he's down there trying to get some attention.
I'm wondering, like, okay, let's say Superman. What's their line for Superman? If they spend 150 to 185, does making 200, 250, 300 million, is it going to stay in the theaters long enough for that to even matter? So I'm curious. I wish I had the insight of an exec. I wish these executives come out and start saying exactly what is success, because look at the Fall Guy. I'm interested in seeing what Fall Guy is going to do on preview, because there are people who have decided that they're just not going to go to the movies to see that if they know they can see it in 45 days.
Yeah.
So yeah. What is somebody's rating or somebody's score mean anymore? Like I was telling you before.
I don't. Well, go ahead. I was going to make another point, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious now to what actually matters when it comes to A, what is success for a movie, and B, what is the criteria for going forward? You know what I mean?
Hey, come out from under my desk, please. Yeah, he's hyperactive tonight.
But it's because you let him sleep all day, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. You want to jump up in front of the camera and say hi to everybody, Murphy? Might as well. Okay, I'll do the best I can to work around it. But I was about to say a minute ago. Yeah, going back to the POVD thing, because obviously a lot of people look back on, like, last year, of course, was not the kindest to CBM's theatrically speaking, but now I'm kind of wondering, because I mean, for the most part, those had to be a pretty quick turnaround for theaters to PVOD, but they never put out the PVOD numbers. Is the thing. It's like for they'll put out for like home physical media, they'll put out a portion of what it is on Netflix or on streaming, but they never put out any kind of PVOD numbers, and I'm kind of curious, like, are we going to start seeing those at some point? Because I'm kind of wondering, like, with things that did not do well theatrically last year, like The Flash, like Shazam: Fury of the Gods, like the Marvels, and like Blue Beetle, again, and pretty much we had like 2 runaway successes theatrically that were CBMs last year. Of course, those were Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Across the Spider-Verse. But with everything you're saying there, and again, how that applies to even big tentpoles, even superhero movies, even things that they'll put $200 million into production, but then we'll see like a quick turnaround for theaters to PVOD as recently as last year. Get out of there! Sorry. I'm kind of wondering. My dog. Okay, can you see him back there? Yeah, he's right back there by my bed. He's making me lose my train of thought. Okay, yeah, he's walking out there now. All right. What was I saying? Yeah. So. Yeah. So. With as recently as last year, the everything you're laying out as related to PVOD numbers and things like that. When are we going to start seeing those numbers come out, and is it going to be like when those numbers come out, like is something like the Flash, is something like Shazam Fury of the Gods or the Marvels, once we get those numbers, is it going to be like, oh, when we put this into the equation, maybe these things were not the failures they've been labeled as?
I don't think we're ever going to see those numbers, because here's the thing: once you start releasing those numbers, people are going to want to start negotiating that, stars and people
What they're going to want a
and
piece
unions,
of that pie, yeah.
they're going to want a piece of that. And trust me, I believe that because they control so much of the means to get this on POVD, that it's a pretty good chunk of change. That its profit margin is so high that these greedy bastards are not going to want to cut in anybody else on that. So yeah, I doubt we'll get those numbers, but you can tell that they're good because, like I said, these movies aren't even being, some of them 3 weeks, they're in, bam, it's over with.
Yeah.
It's like it's a race to get these on their platforms.
The last thing I can, as far as like superhero movies, the last thing and maybe even like just tent poles in general, the last thing I can remember like really having like a well, no, okay, maybe I should watch it. The last thing probably was Avatar: The Way of Water, but then like, as far as CBM specifically, the last one having like an extended theater run probably was Avengers Endgame that I can remember, and even that was like well, I don't know. Should I also maybe say Spider-Man: Far From Home? But even those, again, it's like as far as like
we're in a different world than we were in 2021 and beyond. 2019.
Exactly.
Remember, we didn't have a lot of these streamers when those two movies were released. So,
but even those, even those, it's like, I mean, like Endgame, like I said, it's like I think it was like 4 months from like theaters to PVOD once it was on there. And it's like, which again, that's like, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when like it would be like 6 months from on the long end from when it came out to theaters to home video, and that's like before that. I mean, like back like early 80s, early 90s, it could be like a year.
Yeah.
He just climbed up on my bed, as you guys can see.
Yeah, now, like I said, with streaming, it's just changed the world in the last couple minutes. All right, how are comic book stores feeling about the upcoming From the Ashes relaunch of X-Men comics starting this summer? Is it a palpable excitement or interest from buyers? It's somewhat. It's they a lot of people, it's 50-50. A lot of people liked the Hickman stuff, liked where it was going until it wasn't going anywhere. Got connected to that the way of doing things. And once again, when you do these things, you just got to be careful, because you want to make sure you don't disconnect. I think a lot of people are more worried about how drastically different this is going to be, simply because of the fact that you just invested 3 years into something that was very expansive. So I haven't talked to a lot of other stores about this particular storyline. I'm hoping for the best, but when it comes to X-Men, it sells are pretty strong no matter what, but they aren't what they used to be. So I'll keep it there. Haven't watched the streams the last couple of days, but I imagine William loved the Superman suit reveal and had zero problems with it. I didn't think it would. I don't think the suit looks good at all, in my opinion. But that doesn't really matter. I like I said before, it is recognizable as Superman, and that's really, if you're going to do a comic adaptation, the characters should be instantly recognizable as those IPs. It meets that bill. I don't like the lines. I don't like the padded type look. I don't like the space in between. I think it should be a little bit more form fitting. It takes its inspiration for my 2 least favorite Superman costumes, which was Injustice. I fucking hate that costume. Right. And the New 52, which the collar. Like I said, I don't like Superman with a collar, established collar like that, and I don't like the cape. The cape hooks where they are at. Yeah.
New 52 also, that was canonically, I mean, that was the point where they finally, as far as comic books, was where we really lost the red trunks, and that was like eventually carried over into Cavill's suit, into Hecklin's suit, into the 2 live.
It's about the only thing good about that suit is that you ditched the trunks.
Yeah.
But that the trunks in this one aren't even the worst part. It just doesn't look good. And you have a masculine, bulky, muscular guy like that. I think the suit should form more around his physique than any type of it just, like I said, but once again, it doesn't really mean much, because save for the trunks, I didn't have a problem with the Superman Returns costume, but I had a major problem with the movie. I didn't, Polka Dot Man looks absolutely absurd, ridiculous. But right before he got killed, I made a connection with Peacemaker had a toilet bowl over his head for the entire series. I mean, I didn't have,
his suit. I gotta admit, but that suit never grew on me with Peacemaker. I gotta admit, I also don't think it's necessary. I think it's kind of not meant to, so I can't really hold it against it on that.
Yeah, but see, whether you connected with him was more important than what his suit actually, like, he was recognizable as something. Same thing with Vigilante. Vigilante is absolutely ridiculous, but once he does that whole prison thing where his character takes an evolution arc, that becomes secondary. With Superman, like I said, I don't like the costume, but it's not a deal killer for me. I don't hate it either. I'm not doing all the crazy shit that a lot of people are. I wish they would have done a better job of rolling it out. We went through that last night, but other than that, like I said, I probably spent way too much time on it last night, to be honest.
Yeah. I think still, yeah. Again, at one point I made is like, again, the fact that he's sitting down in that picture, it's like, I don't know, something about the idea of like Superman, like the first suit you see, the first image you see of a Superman actor in the suit with him like standing up and maybe like having his hands on his hips. It's like that really lends a lot to it in a first reveal image.
I would have liked to seen a poster, just a poster with him in a classic Superman pose. A generic Superman pose that's recognizable, because at 85 years of seeing Superman, there's certain poses that's Superman. But once again, they're not taking advice from me, so that's fine. William is a Patreon stream on Friday, going to be live stream. I have not decided yet because it's the first one that we're doing. So see, what I'm trying to do with this Patreon, for those of you who are paying the movie tier level, I'm trying to make this special for you. So I'm thinking if I put it on YouTube, then it's kind of like not special. I'm kind of fighting with that. So I don't.
Then we know now the scary movie is not special, because it's like those are not patron streams. So
we're also not running a charity. That's a big difference.
Yes, God.
We're running
I
a
gotta
fundraiser.
find a one-liner in this somewhere.
Yeah, but this is for the actual, the Patreon. So I'm trying to make the Patreon membership, a little bit, different than just regular stuff. And then when we start getting YouTube memberships, same thing there.
Yeah, I got you. No, definitely.
Disney's not buying anybody.
You've said before, you definitely don't want this to happen.
No, and it won't. Disney's not buying anybody anytime soon. That Fox deal was massive, and they haven't made nearly what they spent back on that. That put a strain on Disney. It put a strain on Disney, because they've yet to even fulfill the potential of the characters that they got from there. And I'm not talking about the recycled ones that we're going to see in Deadpool and the nostalgia bait. I'm talking about the actual full-on MCU versions of these characters. They haven't even begun.
Alita. We're waiting on that. Come on, Cameron.
What's up?
Alita. We're still waiting on Alita too. Come on, Cameron. You swore a blood oath.
I got 10 minutes into the first one.
Okay, so William's gonna let me handle the show from here on tonight, because he decided to bow out early. But as far as like this Marvel DC idea,
so no, I don't see Disney buying anybody anytime soon. I'm when I say that, like 5-10 years, unless somebody becomes so cheap that there's no way around it. But I don't think even WBD will ever be that cheap. Now they might work together, but they're gonna, because you have Turner Sports and you also have ESPN. So, but who knows how long it's gonna last, because you have ESPN. The people who own ESPN are starting to spin off their corporations. Same thing with Paramount. If one of the things that I think will hold up any sale of Paramount to Sony is the fact that the company would be broken up, and a lot of people will not sign off on that. So who knows?
But you didn't like. Also, again, to reiterate, William's not a fan of the idea of a Marvel. He wasn't even a fan of like when they did the crossover in the 90s.
It was. Listen, the 90s
was awesome. It was everything. Why William is saying, just pretend it's awesome. Opposite day, guys.
It was desperation, stupidity, is what it was. They admitted it.
All my school was talking about when they had.
Okay, well, your school wasn't buying comics then, because it didn't.
Oh, the hell they weren't.
Okay, not enough of them. Not enough. It's deemed a failure. It was deemed a failure. Everything that they did during that era was a desperation Hail Mary. And that's what the problem with the 90s was. Everything that they did in the 90s was desperation Hail Marys. The Heroes Reborn thing was a desperation. That was an absolute failure. When the Onslaught storyline didn't sell. That's what led to the Heroes Reborn thing, where they brought back Layfield and all the people who had formed Image to start walking. Everything that from about Age of Apocalypse on, and this is both of these companies, DC and Marvel, and a lot of the ones that Valiant and even Image was suffering. Everything that they did was a desperation Hail Mary. There would not have, if comics were selling right, there would have been no Marvel versus DC. It was desperation. And it was dumb too. And a lot of the guys, look at some of the interviews of the guys who worked on some of that shit.
You see, I mean, see that was going to happen. I just don't see that. Sooner or later, I mean, some creative is going to get the idea of like, let's mix and match these characters, these two universes together. Nobody have been ripping each other off since time immemorial. I mean, that's like not even like disputable.
No, it was not. Try selling that shit in the 90s. Nobody at the top of any of those companies was ever thinking about doing that until they were both edging towards bankruptcy. Nobody wanted it. It didn't sell. It sold like trash. It was and it was stupid. And it was desperation. If DC and Marvel had been in good financial standing when that got released, you would have never seen that. You would have never seen that. You had people that worked on both DC and Marvel projects that look back on that as what it was. It was desperation. Everything that happened during that period was desperation. What can we do to spark this? What can we do to spark? Who can we put on the cover to sell this? That was why the 90s were what they were. That's why you have what Marvel went through. That's why you have Sony and Spider-Man. Stupid shit like Marvel versus DC is, and I'm not trying to just poke fun. That is why you had that, because it was desperation garbage that they were just trying to throw against the wall to see if it would work. Does this work? What do we have to lose? It was a what do we have to lose mentality of the mid to late 90s that really almost sank Marvel.
Yeah, see, I just can't get on board with it because it just seems like
the idea
DC meeting Marvel. I mean, that's just, if it hadn't happened, then what happens?
You got to get the idea of something and the reality of something. All right, you can come up with a lot of stupid shit with an idea. When you execute that idea, you realize how stupid it is. There's a lot of things that sound cool.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ideas on here that are awesome that you keep telling me aren't. I'm just telling everybody.
I sold the stuff, dude. I'm not telling you from the other side of the wall. I sold this shit. It was garbage. It didn't work.
Oh.
The idea of something and the reality of something are on two different worlds. Marvel versus DC.
And by the way, guys, before you guys think we're getting each other's throats in the comments, it's all in jest here when I say that. Okay.
With the idea for decades and decades, what if Marvel versus DC happened? The reason why it never happened was common sense. It never needed to. During the times where comics were selling, you didn't need that desperation shit. They would have never done it. You like I said, it was like a nuclear weapon. You have it.
But they did. But they did do it. They had the Superman and Spider-Man one. Then they had the Batman and the Hulk one. So there was precedent for that.
Yeah, two things in 60 years, and they were promos. They were not. They were just promos. You had the giant one. You had Spider-Man.
What
you had Superman versus Muhammad Ali. They were promos. There's a difference between doing a promo like that, and you're never going to ever do it again, to where they threw a lot of resources into that shit, dude. And it was like I said, it was not a good time to be behind the counter.
Well, thank you, Murphy, for your guest appearance there when William's trying to explain comic book history to us all.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I don't think we ever need to see that again. And I hope we have people that are running both companies that never allow themselves to be that desperate again. Because wasn't.
But I wanted to reiterate there in the comment I made. It's like, oh, William just hates all awesome. Guys, it's all in good fun. Before you guys all start turning on William or something.
No, and like I said, there's just the idea of certain things. Oh, by the way, off topic. So, X-Men '97.
Oh, are you not? So yeah. Where? Because the show has been pretty well received, all things considered. But yeah, I gather you're not on board with
I
where they're
don't
taking.
mind what they did. I don't mind them portraying that. For those of you who actually read Fatal Attractions, the context in which that event happened was a lot deeper and a lot longer than what they put in. And there's a series of events that made that moment just spectacular. And when I'm watching this the other night, and it just comes, not everything that happens in one medium necessarily needs to happen in another. You got the effect of seeing that thing, but not the original context that thing happened in. And it was a major. They've done a lot with Magneto in this cartoon, but in a way that wasn't consistent with that, and the way that went down. You had There was a whole bunch of, it was like that would happen when what he did with Wolverine was 3 years in the making. And which is the legacy virus, the death of Peter's sister, a lot of crisis of faith that a lot of mutants were having, to the point where they even ended up on Avalon, which is where it happened. It was like you were doing it just to do it. Oh, we know this is a famous thing that happened between these two characters. We got to get it on here. And it wasn't when it happened in the comics, it was part of the story arc. And it was, like I said, it ended up moving on to, to evolve Charles Xavier. Now I don't know what's going to happen in the immediate seconds, because it stops at a certain point. Whereas in the comic book Fatal Attractions, obviously Magneto fucks him up. Magneto does something he says he should have done for decades now, but what made it real in Fatal Attractions is both Magneto, and this is why we covered this. We covered Fatal Attraction a few months ago. What made it real and made the context important in Fatal Attraction was the evolution of these characters never wanting to pull the trigger on each other. Magneto was never at the level where he was going to do anything like that, or anything to become truly crossing the line evil, to where he would even strike his own son. Because remember, that's what Wolverine lunged at him after he shot a bolt at Quicksilver. Quicksilver was trying to stop him. He's like, any guy who would take out his own son doesn't need to be around. And then remember how shocked Magneto was. If you read it, Magneto was shocked that because Wolverine went in for the kill, and he's like, I didn't want to kill him. I don't want to kill any of these people, but the situation has brought us to this point, and I have no control over it. I didn't get that in that cartoon. I did not get that. I got the dramatic moment, but I didn't get the context. Also, if you read X-Men 25, which is, the issue that had happened, the dialogue is some of the best. This is some of the best stuff before we got to the mid-90s, where they were just throwing shit against the wall. X-Men, that story, rap moment, that fold-out page where he does that, it's like you're watching Shakespeare. It's like you're watching Shakespeare, and Magneto is the tragic, hero or anti-hero in all of this. And then, seconds later, Charles now reaches the level that he never reached, and he wipes his mind out. He basically turns him into a vegetable, and he stays that way until after Age of Apocalypse. So it was there was just a lot more context in that what happened. But what I saw there is they just said, "Oh, we've been waiting for this forever, to do this forever." And I'm like, I didn't mind them doing it. It's just the context that it happened in was just like, they took that spectacular visual that we all know and just put that out there without, to me, the real context that made that moment work in the comics. But other than that, yeah. But I gave it a watch. But hey, you know what? It's not a kiddie show anymore. I can tell you that.
Oh no,
but yeah,
definitely.
it's not a kiddie show. They're doing stuff, like I said. But I just think there's certain things that happen on certain mediums that don't always transfer, and this was one of those moments. But Okay, I can only guess that they would consider a superhero movie that makes at least a small profit at the box office. I don't even know if that's true. Even with POV by streaming numbers, as it says, yeah, and we'll never know because they're never giving those. Just like when the strike was happening, as soon as I got to the point where everybody was going to start demanding that they release the numbers, wow, we got a deal. I was saying that the whole time. But yeah, so off topic on that word, there is no topic, but yeah, but just as but going back to the Marvel versus DC thing, listen, if you see them even thinking about that means both sides are so desperate that they're looking for another Hail Mary. I don't think Disney's there. I don't think they'll ever be there again. Let's knock on wood. We don't want that. I don't think DC, even as in its dilapidated state, is anywhere near where they were in the mid 90s, where they were that desperate. And we don't want that. If you see that happening again, that means things are about to get really bad. That means people are like, pulling out all the stops to stop their ship from hitting that iceberg. So we don't want that again. Like I said, ugh. And that wasn't the only thing about the mid 90s. Like I said, it was just that was a response to just things, a lot of things not working out, the oversaturation, the back issue value just plunging because so many things were in circulation. And remember, back in the 90s, half of your walkthrough was people coming in and trading stuff and you reselling stuff. Once that reselling market, dried up for a lot of people because there were so many copies out there of everything, then it wasn't worth anything. Once the speculator buyers left, then it really left a lot of people who built their entire structure on that left hanging. There was a lot of stores that closed up in the mid 90s because of all that. So no, when I hear Marvel versus DC on a video game somewhere, great. But in anything that's actually worth something, that's a sign. And it's not a good sign. All right, so yeah. How you doing,
What's
Aaron?
that acronym stand for? How's it going, Aaron? Yeah, and also she also says like everybody when they saw Murphy jump in. Yeah, no, he's still in his pup phase. Yeah.
Are you still growing?
They say he's a German Shepherd horner, and I've heard that he's about 2.5 now. But I've heard that apparently it's like they're still in their pup phase until basically 3 or something like that. And he's got the energy of a locomotive.
I can see it, him behind you like that. Thoughts on Bob Iger? This is just right. Thoughts on Bob Iger announcing shareholders during shareholder meeting that movie for Marvel Studios will only release 2 films and 2 shows a year, with the rare exception of a third.
Oh, you mean the exact thing they were already doing?
Yeah, the formula, the pre-shape pack formula. Yeah.
I don't even see how this is news. I saw that float around. Like, so we're downgrading to exactly the quantity we were already doing.
What worked for them? They're going back because remember though, and here's the thing though, it's an adjustment because when they bought Chapek, they know the money that's in Disney Plus. They may make adjustments to pull back a little bit here and there, but they know where that money is for them as far as anything outside of their parks. So yeah, that's where we'll be now. But trust me, at some point, all these streamers, every single one of them, is going to have to invest in content and volume to keep that static income. It's only a matter of time. So they will still be doing shows, but they'll increase the budgets. They're going to have to if they want to get to where Amazon and Netflix are. You can't. There's no going back. There's no going back. They just have to make an adjustment on how they do it. You can't rush it. You're going to have to systematically do it, which is what they'll do. Hello, fun. Aaron, Rhea, what's going on? Hey, William, you need to start. I'm watching it.
Yeah, we were talking about that a second ago. So
yeah, they have done Fatal Attraction. Yeah, they did their Fatal Attraction. Yeah, and like I said, I don't know if I'm spoiling for anybody. I know there are aspects of Fatal Attraction that are there, but not in the way that, like I said, the way it was presented in the storyline was like I said, it was there's a lot they've taken liberties, which is fine, but I think there's just certain aspects of Fatal Attraction that have to be there for you to understand this is about Charles and him and all these years of them holding back for the good of everything around them, and finally they're just to that fuck it phase. He gets there in the cartoon, but not in the way, not in the build-up, and not with the detail that happens in actual Fatal Attraction. So, that's my opinion. I mean, I mean, without the proper context, it's just the little event, the big shock event, and that's, to me, it was dramatic when it happened, but there was more to it than what I saw there last night. But that's just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, Vince? Vince is the guy who did our beautiful opening. If you guys like that,
awesome opening. Do you think it does look good? I think let's talk about the Superman suit again. The suits presented, or just in general?
Both. I don't think it looks good.
That's where I feel too. Yeah.
But yeah, one could have superseded. One could have overcame the other. I don't like the way it looks. That's just an opinion. That's not a deal killer. The presentation of it, I think, could have overwhelmed that. If you'd have had a big suit with him reaching towards the sky and shooting straight up, or something like that, or him walking out, like I said, in the middle of NBA, where you have the New York Knicks playing the largest.
You were talking about this last night, yeah.
In the world, and you stop everything. You have James Gunn come out, and then Corn Sweat comes out behind him in the full-on suit, and then you go to Superman in theater. That would have looked a lot better. I think the awe-inspiring nature of that would have probably overwhelmed the shortcomings of the costume.
Do you think this is actually kind of a quote? Because I saw so many people. I mean, obviously, it's got tons of comparisons with the Man of Steel suit review and to Henry Cavill and all that. Which I mean, I'll go and say yes, his is a better suit, and it did have a better reveal. And he, of course, everybody remembers he had the reveal where he was in front of the bank vault, which that's a scene in the movie, and that kind of made me wonder: is this going to be a scene in the movie too?
It could be. I mean, I could have picked. Like I said, I just think that it just could have been. There's just a lot of this could have been solved. A lot of their issues that they will have could have been solved by just better presentation. I love this. Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I love Michelle
Yeoh. Top tier actress, and this tells me that Amazon means business when it comes to this series. And this is what you have to do. You have to make the invest. You cannot go back. Amazon is not going back. Netflix is not going back. Don't confuse and conflate making an adjustment to your strategy to going back to what the things things before. They are definitely going forward. And just like I said, there's no such thing as too much Blade Runner for me, because every single thing that has come out for Blade Runner has been fucking excellent. The shorts have been excellent. Black Lotus, if you haven't watched Black Lotus, for those of you guys in animation and anime, you need to watch Black Lotus. It's great. The comics by Titan has been great. Blade Runner 2049, if you were ever going to fuck up a sequel, and this is after I saw Independence Day Resurgent, and I was scared shitless. I'm like, oh no, next year we're coming out with a Blade Runner. I've been waiting for this movie my entire adult life, and now I'm sitting in front of this heaping pile of garbage that was ID42. And then for them to pull off Blade Runner 2049 and make it my favorite movie, period, then now, at that point, they have not put out bad Blade Runner. There's not bad Blade Runner out there. So now I got Amazon getting an Academy Award winner. That means they're going to support that show that with money and things like that. So
they're definitely. They're definitely. This is definitely coming off of the all the Love to Everything Everywhere All at Once got the Oscar, to go to the Academy Award winner. Part of it with Michelle Yeoh and yeah, of course I've been a fan of hers since like before she was discovered in the West, and it's kind of interesting too, because she's obviously she's known for like all her work in Hong Kong for things like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and James Bond, all of her and that's the thing. That's the thing I find so crazy is that she's known for like all her work in like kung fu movies, but now she's kind of almost like she's almost got like a second career now in sci-fi stuff, because she was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, she's been in Star Trek, she's going to be in Blade Runner now, and even Everything All at Once. That's kind of like a whole melting pot of different genres. So yeah, she's kind of jumping from one genre to another now.
Although I love you, Jamie Lee Curtis, but that was Angela Bassett's award. I'm sorry. I saw both movies and I just thought she put on a better. Yeah, X-Men '97 was legit. It's basically the kind of show William. Yeah, if they were doing this in the '90s, I would have loved this in the '90s. I mean, because this is before we would have had the context to reflect on. If this was the tone of the show in the '90s, 1992, instead of that soft core, let's sit Billy in front of the TV and I don't have to worry about him. Yeah, it would have been a different world. The tone. I have to applaud the adjustment in the tone. I mean, I still don't think that this should in any way, shape, or form be used as a precursor or as an inspiration to the MCU X-Men, because I still don't think it fits what's been doing, unless you're just going to blow up the MCU. But no, there's just too many things that are working. I'm looking for the X-Men to be a X-Men that's consistent with what we're about to get rolled out here. I don't want any nostalgia. I'm done with nostalgia when it comes to these comic book characters, and that was it. But yeah, like I said, it's better than it was. Now, perfection, now you're starting it. Before it was just a matter of opinion. If you like the cartoon, you continue to love the cartoon. Now we're starting to get into story context and story adaptations. Now that's where I get, to the point where it's not to me just an opinion. To me, it's okay. When you adapt something, there are certain things about Fatal Attractions that were not in that story last night. Whenever I watched it, it's just not. The shock effect value was in there, and the similarities of who's doing it and who it would happen to are there, but the weight of the story was different. Now, if you guys are enjoying X-Men '97, I mean, this is more along your thing, because you're watching that happen and you're consistent with that storyline. But when you say Fatal Attractions, like I said, that point where what happens, Wolverine happens, is like the penultimate. It's like it's near the climax. There's just so much quality storytelling that was done that was left out in regards to X-Men '97. Then that you have to have there. Once you start stripping away the things that led up to what happened in Fatal Attraction, you really affect the story. It's something else now. Not saying that something else is bad, but for somebody who read Fatal Attractions off the shelf, it's just not the same. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not the same.
Sorry, I want to check out what he was doing behind me there.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
You could power a city with Murphy's energy. These
like
guys
a wheel and have them running in it. This is good. Hey, listen, I respect your opinion, Richie. I would, like I said, I no. Nor, like I said, not only do I think the actual MCU live action is superior, it's two different formats that it's kind of incomparable, to be honest with you. But me personally, like I said, I waited all my life to see these characters fleshed out on the screen this way. Cartoons are good in a certain way, but it's to the point where there's just certain things that work and certain mediums and certain things that don't. So that's what's kind of being exposed here. All right, let's check and see if anybody followed.
Yeah. By the way, how's it going, Ruth?
Yeah, what's going on with the Discord? Because I noticed it's not there. We got to connect it to the Discord so we can do Discord. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get with you on that then. But like I said, I'm trying to. I just don't want to have people paying for Patreon memberships and we never do anything for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guest of the exclusive part could be joining the panel. Let me figure it out. I mean, I know we're definitely doing it on Friday. This will be the first time, so this will be a learning experience for me to do it. So, who knows? Nothing's set in stone right
now. William and Brad. Well, for me, tomorrow it's going to be King of the Planet of the Apes. I actually got my on my AMC A list. I got the ticket for that a few hours ago. So I'm going to see that tomorrow night.
There may not be a show. There more. There, I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to see it tomorrow night too, because I'm really kicking myself that I couldn't.
I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. But that's another one where we're talking about, like, in the shift, industry's
that.
business model.
3 weeks from now.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, the shift in this industry's business model, that's another one, because again, it's like, for as good as it looks and for like the buzz it's getting for like early showings and things like that. I mean, it's like I'm kind of getting the sense that the hype is not, or like the push, maybe the hype push machine, maybe is the term I should use,
I
for the theatrical debut of it, is not, it's not what we felt when Dawn was coming out. And now it's like, that's not a matter of the studio not having faith in it. I think it's more just the reality of just the business model shifting with everything we've said.
well, Dawn, and also Dawn didn't get a lot of push too. I mean, not from, because we promoted that one and we got basically the same kind of scrapping. The big difference though with the Apes movies is that's a really powerful brand name. That's a 55-year-old brand name that has to some degree worked on every level. Even when it wasn't very good, it still drew. I think
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes has a drawing power. That's a unique drawing power to where I think they were like, you know what, it's Planet of the Apes. It's look at it. It looks so I think it might meet its 130. They say it's projected to make 130. I don't think it'll matter whether it does or not,
What
because
opening
guess
is
what?
that with opening weekend?
Yeah, projected global 130 or something like that. I don't
Projected
know.
global, okay, yeah, because
Yeah,
that's another thing we need to we kind of maybe start moving a little bit with the shift in the business models, the 100 million plus opening, and definitely the 200 million plus opening weekend. That's going to be a lot more. That's going to be considerably
I
more
don't even
rare.
think they want that anymore. Yeah, I don't even think they want that, because once again, if you're the studio guy, right? That's not 200 that's coming to you.
Yeah, it's
35%, yeah.
Yeah, it's split up, and it's also split up regionally, where, because I mean, it depends on what territory. I mean, like, yeah, and it can get pretty stringent. I mean, like China, when foreign
Yeah.
movies are really,
You
they
only
get
get
like
25%.
we get a quarter back for every dollar of whatever's released in China.
Yeah, so when people are like, well, man, it's so and so, yeah, well, did the cat at the end of the table get everything that was supposed to be in his or her dish? And if like I said, so they may not, making that kind of money if they move it to BVOD, where if you look between the lines and you do some digging of who has a stake in a lot of these little PVOD platforms, it's gonna look a lot familiar.
Yeah.
You're gonna start hearing some names and seeing some faces that you just may have seen before. So yeah, I think they're gonna try to get these type of big, especially a big movie like this, is because it's not considered a box. If you decide you're going to move something 3 weeks after you, that's not necessarily a bomb. That's just you making a decision because you want all the money.
Well,
And guess what? You made the investment, so
that's where I was kind of making the point earlier about, like, when a lot of movies, and that we even saw this, like, I think we started to see more of this in 2022. We definitely saw it accelerate last year, where it's out in theaters, and then like a month later, it's on VOD. Are we gonna like start to retroactively like kind of look back on a lot of those where that happened, in these earlier years, and these things are considered flops at the time, but we look at it within the context of history now and say, oh no, this is just the kind of patient zero of this transition.
I think that's exactly the latter. I think that is going to, because we especially fans, we tend to look back at things and retrospectively try to change history of where things were at and all this. Things were greater than they were, and when in reality, So yeah, I think we'll look back on this era as it becomes the norm to get these things as soon as they can to a streamer or to a platform where they make all the money. We'll look back on this differently. And like I said, that's what I mean. By the time we get to a movie like Superman, how many of these rules will still be in place? You could have a situation where James Gunn Superman pulls in 250 million, 300 million. In an era that might get somebody fired, if they've come out and
10 years ago, you're getting fired for that.
Yeah. If it costs you 180 million and you make 300 million, and you've controlled your advertising costs, I don't know what they're going to be. And then all of a sudden, July 11th comes out, and August 5th, I got Superman on HBO Max or Superman on PVOD. And so, what's going to be considered a success or not for them? That's curious. Like I said, that's not a statement. That's a question for me. So
yeah, because we started seeing that kind of start to happen in 2020, like Black Adam, that that was like about a month from theaters to PVOD, and then of course you saw that again more and more. But again, it's like fast forward half a decade from those. I mean, are these things going to be retroactively kind of labeled as, oh no, when you measure the revenue in totality with that transition and with that shortened window, it's like, no, these things actually ended up in the black.
Yeah, like Madam Web. Madam Web is only a
that's it.
failure in pop culture, on YouTube and like I said, in the places it doesn't matter. Listen, everybody in the chat, everybody watching, everybody who will watch, it doesn't matter what you think about Madam Web. It really doesn't.
And we've said we neither of us think it's good. So
it's a horrible movie, but it doesn't matter what I think. What matters? Whether it made money or not in its totality, and it did. Fucking Velma has no business getting a second season, has no business even being considered for a third season. It doesn't matter what the internet thinks of Velma. It doesn't matter what YouTubers and Twitter heads think of Velma. Where it's measurable, somebody's watching Velma. I don't know who the fuck you are, but somebody is. So yeah, we're gonna look back at the box office like we do when we look at telephone booths, and we're gonna be like, wow, you guys got in those.
We're gonna be like, it's gonna be that moment of Christopher Reeves like trying to get into the one that doesn't have the doors, and it's like, what the hell is this?
No, fourth, Marvel DC will never happen again. No, if it does happen again, the genre is on its way out. If Marvel DC ever happens again, we're on our last legs. The genre is not on its way out.
Do you mean comics wise or movie wise? Because it has to happen movie wise.
Where?
Well, because I think he's referring to that they'll do like a big crossover movie, alternate universe meet kind of thing, which that hasn't happened cinematically. That's happened comics wise, as we were saying. But
yeah, it's happened comics. I don't think it'll happen on any scale, and I would bet that in our lifetime. And if it does, we're nearing the end. We're nearing the end. When either of those sides get desperate enough to do that again, we're probably about to pack it up. And it's not just that genre, it's a lot of genres that are connected to it. Look at what was going on when it happened the first time. For those of you who may be too young and didn't live that, trust me, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. The content that was coming out in the mid-90s was some utter shit for the most part. And it was just desperation. Everybody thought that all the speculator people that jumped on were going to stick around. Well, when you make 500,000 copies of something that was only being printed 125,000 copies before, the value goes down. You can't keep coming to me telling me, "Hey, dude, guess what I got in my bag?" Oh, let me guess. That's a Superman. And then I pulled out my stack and be like, "Okay, what do I need, a paperweight?" And you add yours to it. Everybody was buying and the chromium covers, which went from being special, and then Chaos Comics and Lady Death. Then it was like every issue was a chromium cover, and then X-Men Alpha came out. All the things that were supposed to be special got ran into the ground and saturated, and then everybody was sitting, including stores, was sitting on inventory that wasn't moving. And when the inventory wasn't moving, that goes up. The comic book, when our inventory is not moving, the first thing we cut are our orders. And that's what comic book stores did across the nation when it came to Marvel, DC, and Diamond at the time, which was the monopoly, Kitchen Sink Press, all these. Everybody started cutting their orders. And when you started cutting your orders, it affected the two major companies and literally put one out of business. And like I said, if DC hadn't been owned by Warner Brothers, you could have seen those IPs being sold off. If it was just DC Comics was on its own, there's a good chance that some ill-fated person would have been like, "We're desperate. Let's sell Wonder Woman. Let's sell Batman to somebody else." Because that was the mindset then. But because they were backed by a corporate entity, that didn't happen to them. Marvel was different. So, yeah, the 90s, dude. There's got to be some documentaries on YouTube or somewhere about how fucking awful the mid-90s were. There's got to be. I wasn't alone.
Aaron Michelle Yeoh's the lead in Lawrence is awesome. So, yeah, I agree. Again, it's like she's it's weird calling it like a resurgence with her, because it's not like she had like a career dip or anything, but it's like after Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's like it's almost like she's bigger than ever. But she was already known. She was already a big star. So she was
a big star in a genre that a lot of Americans just weren't Fox.
But even before that though, like she was in Star Trek before Everything Ever All at Once. So
yeah, but she's big by that point. But we're talking about like some of the other stuff she's done it was good, but it didn't have the wow. She wasn't at the top of your lips when you thought of, like a Sweeney type thing where, she was in the zeitgeist. She was doing quality stuff, but not everybody really appreciated it. I mean, the James Bond thing would probably be the closest thing to like what a lot of Universal people would watch.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That was kind of like that was that.
Yeah, but if you weren't into that genre movie, then you didn't see that. You see what I mean? It's almost like it was a genre movie. Not knocking it at all. It was a classic. But I know a lot of people who've never seen that movie, just never seen that movie. They might go back and see it now after Michelle. Yeah, but a lot of people, a lot of times you're in genre movies that don't get you don't get the credit that you deserve for the quality you put into them. It's like science fiction. There's a lot of people who've done their career science fiction that don't get the credit that genre deserves because it's a niche genre, which sucks because she deserved credit for the whole entire time. Now she's in Blade Runner. That literally,
Yeah, and again, it's like Everything Everywhere Else. It's almost like this again because it's combining so many different genres. It's almost like this kind of crossroads where it's like like her action audience and her sci-fi audience together all at once, and that's like there you go. That's boom. That leads that it's almost like that leads right into her joining Blade Runner. So yeah,
I mean, I had people asking me today, "Who's Michelle Yeoh?" I'm like, "Serious, dude?" And it was more than a few people because I brought it up. I'm like, "Hey, you hear about Michelle Yeoh? Who's that? Did you see everything? No. Did you see Star Trek Discovery? No." And I'm like, "Well,
how long? Well, first of all, like how long was she on the show? Like, was she been like a staple?
She was on the show the first two seasons. Okay. Now she has another movie coming out, playing that same character. She's in the Section 31 movie.
Yes. I think your assessment is very spot on here, RJ.
No, like I said, you have you when you look back at it, if you were not there, it sounds like a great idea. It sounds awesome, right? But you have to understand where both of those companies were and where they had to be to do that. And they would be in interviews saying nothing's working right now. So this is, what do we have to lose? Now, there were people quoted, what do we have to lose? They had reached the what do we have to lose stage when they did this. So, yeah, if you see this happening again, that's one of those $7.40 stock type of things. That's not a good sign. All right, so
let's see what else we got here. Ruth asks William and Brad without a beard. Yeah, apparently you really miss my beard, Ruth. Will you be watching The Boys? Yes, I will. Forward to it. Big time. I don't think William is quite as much in The Boys as a lot of other people are.
I watch it. I mean, I think the comic was, I'm interested always. I'm always interested in each of the episodes because seeing, the comic, how it, reading that years and years and years ago and seeing how they flesh it out. I actually think they've done an excellent job with it. I'm not over the top, like, I got to, as soon as it comes out, I ended up watching most of that stuff like weeks later. It was never my favorite IP, but I think they've done a good job with the show.
Yeah, I wasn't like a day one. I mean, I discovered the comic through the show. I mean, I wasn't like the Boys was like something I was definitely a Johnny come lately on that. So yeah, I'm like I know I have friends who are massively into it. So yeah, so I will definitely be tuning in for Boys season 4. I actually got to interview the stunt coordinator of the first 2 seasons a couple years ago. That was pretty fun.
Was it Michael J. White? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was not. Are you getting the Spidey? There's your Michael J. White plug.
There's got to be a Raid reference there somewhere.
Oh, damn it! You just beat me. I was about to say it's like no, it was actually the guy from the Raid.
101 and without it. Wolverine wanted to kill Magneto the whole episode. He took his shot because he was about to kill Xavier. Wolverine will dirty his hands with the good of his enemy. Yeah, but that scene, okay. Like I said, if you without taking a shot at what they did, that was what it was. But the reason why Wolverine lunged at him is because he realized that that was the moment that, you know, him going at Xavier didn't have the weight. Him striking Quicksilver, his son, who they built up a relationship. The dialogue between Quicksilver, Pietro, and Magneto during Fatal Attractions is some of the best shit in comics. Up to that point where Quicksilver just lunges at him and he says, I can't go with you on this road that you're going on, and you're about to harm a lot of people, what you're about to do. And when he, you know, gave Quicksilver a significant shot that could have killed him, that's where Wolverine was like, he's reached that point. He's reached that point of justification where he's going to do these things that he says he's going to do. And Wolverine came at him. And Cyclops had warned him. He's like, I need you to fall back. I need you to stay back. You're the drop dead last person I want going up against Magneto for obvious reasons. And Magneto, and see the whole point about it. And this is the character, the way it was characterized in the cartoon was not how it was characterized in the comic. The hesitation and the thought, because you're in the comic book, you're reading his thoughts. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this to any of these guys. It's the antithesis of what I'm trying to do is save mutant kind. And here I'm being put in a position where I may have to kill a lot of these people. Remember, him and Rogue, even outside of the Rogue relationship that you see in this cartoon, is inspired by the closest that they had in the comics. You know, and a lot of these characters, he had these differences, but he respected them, and he could have done this any time. He could have done this. The whole point of Fatal Attractions was to build up to the point where the things you could have always done over the past 20 years, you are now at that justification where you could do it. And the dialogue that's written in the comics helps propel that in a way that it just doesn't do it in the cartoon. It just doesn't do it. Now, I understand that they did what they needed to do to tell their story, but their story is based on something that had a lot more meat to it than what they did. That doesn't make it awful or anything. It just makes it different in a way that I couldn't be on board with it. All it was to me was, oh, they're doing that thing that everybody knows about, but probably a lot of people didn't read about it. And I implore you, here's the thing. I'm going to build a bridge to the X-Men 92 and 97 people. If you have not read Fatal Attractions, please go read it, especially after you've seen that. You'll understand what I mean. You know, enjoy that show. But if you get a chance, go read Fatal Attractions. I think there's a lot more. I think it'll add to your experience, you know. So but yeah, I did watch it. I have been watching X-Men 97, so don't think I'm not watching the show, even though I knock it every now and then. I am more I'm more 92 than I am 97.
All right, what else you guys got for us tonight? Oh, Aaron says there's a lot of hate watchers of that. Whether, yeah, I mean,
I mean, view is a view, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Hate watchers don't understand. Is like, a view is a view. So, or a ticket is a ticket.
Used to burn albums and burn books. You had to buy that book to burn it.
Yeah. They don't care, the studio or the company. They don't care what you do with the product once you have given the money to them for it. So
yeah, you can set the money on fire. You know, that's because you need to watch the show from the beginning. I did. You'll see. I watched it from the beginning. I know how he gets to the point here, but how he gets to that moment is not consistent with what I think that would have happened. That should have happened. I thought they took a lot of shortcuts. By the time you get to the point where Magneto's on trial and all that, and where he is at, by the time he reaches the point where he does that to Wolverine, that's years. And I know you don't have all the time in the world to necessarily tell that story in a cartoon, but you're changing it though by virtue of the fact that you're skipping a lot of character building. There are stories that are never going to be in X-Men 97 that help launch and help propel the meaning of what he's doing. So yeah, whether I watched the show from the beginning, I'm coming to that opinion based on that. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it just doesn't. That moment doesn't line up with what the moment meant for me. When that moment is what inspired your cartoon, you know. So There was some Shakespearean dialogue, or not? Yeah, there was, but dude, I know, Artie, you've read the. Like I said, go back and read that. Right as he's doing that, the words Magneto is using is just not the same. There was some Shakespearean dialogue and other points of the episode. Magneto showed up with Asteroid M and grilled Xavier for his vision of the future. Yeah, but see, there's a lot of that though. That's just not you just can't put in the medium that they're giving it to you. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that kind of stuff being said to other people. There's a lot of that being said to Colossus, because remember where Colossus at. Colossus is a very important part of the storyline, and it's not just about that moment. It's about the evolution over years to that moment. So, like I said, as a comic book geek, I will full-heartedly admit that I'm biased. Because I experienced the story that you guys are watching through an adaptation through the actual medium it's based on. So I will probably never really agree on it, but we don't have to. It is what it is.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I just saw this meme that Droga shared. I got to pull this up right now. This is so funny.
They spent episodes building. Yeah, I understand, guys. They spent episodes building it up. What happened? They spent years building that up. It was a storyline that had building blocks that go back from that very same writer that was writing that moment. So, and it wasn't switched out for anything. It was fluid the way it happened in the comic. They didn't take something to make cool like another director we know. They built something, but they used different ingredients and different material. How about that? Is that fair enough?
Okay. I got to pull this up.
Something that they built was different than what was built before.
I got to pull this up. Droga, did you make this one, Droga? Because this is actually really funny with the Superman suit. This is one of my funniest ones I've seen so far, and I've seen some good ones. Here we go. Well, if you guys don't know, this is like George Bush on 9/11 with the whole he's in the classroom with the goat book and.
I personally don't see the humor, but that's humor subjective, I guess.
What do you think? It's in poor taste?
Very.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, that is true.
Right now, to give you guys some context, Superman is in place of George Bush. One of his chief of staff right there is letting him know that a second plane is hit the tower and we're under attack. So on that day that's being depicted here, nearly 3,000 people died.
Yeah, let me take that off. Yeah, because I can see that. Yeah, I would get in trouble for that.
Like I said. Well, I mean, I'm giving you guys who are watching it the context that I view that in. If you guys think that's funny,
I've seen some that actually have the towers being hit behind him.
Yeah, that's probably
well. See, here's the thing, though, because the thing I thought about with that, I wasn't even thinking to the actual tragedy. I was thinking to because anybody who's seen Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, he makes a big kind of point of Bush getting that, and this is out without getting too political or wherever you stand on the Bush presidency, but the whole thing about he got the message and then just kind of sat there for a couple of minutes before they really took any action. And he and Michael Moore mined all kinds of humor out of that himself. So that's what my mind immediately went to when I saw that.
Yeah, his was a little bit of a darker humor, and his point was a little bit differently. But I guess if you had a meme where when George Bush was in Iraq and the people were throwing the shoes at him, that would have been a little bit more. But the fact that, like I said, he's maybe it's just me, but the fact that he's being alerted that I will never forget that moment. I will never forget. Just like we can't forget Kobe, I will never forget 2001.
Well, I think also and Droga said you'd make that meme because I think they're kind of playing on the idea that the laser battle is happening behind him while he's getting his boots on. So
yeah.
So it's kind of playing on the idea. It's there's something you might want to pay attention to out there, Superman.
And you know what? To be honest with you, there are a generation of people who weren't even alive when that happened, and that the weight just doesn't hit them.
Yeah. I mean, people
Droga would not have been alive.
Yeah,
I don't know how old Toby is.
people I train with, people at my school, that I teach or that I train with. I know some of them who either were not alive or who were just
Yeah.
babies at the time.
I know exactly where I
Yeah,
was.
I'm gonna get us canceled for that now. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I just my mind went to something, maybe
All right, the final exchange between Magneto and Logan is credible. I thought it was okay. It wasn't that, like I said, I wish I was at the store because I have that issue, and it just carried a different weight because that was the medium it was supposed to be done in. And I'm not against them. I would have loved for them to gone full on, with it. But like I said, I just viewed it as something that was more of a we want to get to that moment where this happens, and the actual context of it was not really not the bigger thing. Where in the comics, like I said, him getting his antimatter for those of you who haven't watched it, I should have put a spoiler alert, is the high point because something even bigger happens right after that. That creates a whole bunch of other what I consider the last good storyline of the 90s when it came to X-Men, and that was the Onslaught series. Because remember, Bishop and X-Men back in 1991, Bishop came back in time with the having grown up with the history of the X-Traitor, and nobody knew who it was. And when Bishop came through, he had that footage that he showed where he showed Jean, trying to tell people about, he's turned on us and all this. And this is 5 years before Onslaught even happened. And it was always this footage that he brought with him that got cut off. So the Fatal Attraction storyline was lined up to deal with the X-Traitor at the time. And it ended up being, this is not a spoiler alert, it's a 35-year-old story, guys. When he wipes Magneto's mind, part of Magneto's psyche jumps into his, and in his essence, they create Onslaught, which was a Omni level, Omega level mutant that could do a lot of different things, and there were a lot of things inside of Charles Xavier's mind that he had kept under control. That under Onslaught there was no filter, and there were a lot of things about Magneto that weren't wholly evil that came about in Onslaught that people didn't realize. So it was a much longer arc. A lot of people will remember that moment, but like I said, it was so much larger. I would have liked to have seen him go into that type of detail. But like I said, I don't think this is bad. It's just for me, when I watched it, I just didn't get the payoff that I did when I read it. That's all. If you guys enjoyed it, no problem, man.
By the way, Aaron has a request here.
Ooh, okay. See if I don't have any.
You got to angle it just right because her knees coming this way and he's gonna sit in this way. So
on his boots while you. Plus, Aaron, send me some different poses, man. We're gonna run out of shit to do with that one.
Have you got any where like you kicking from the other side? Maybe because that might work a little bit better because the positioning he's in there, it's like that might the way your knees coming up. You got to get a little.
Yeah, there's only so much I can do unless I Photoshop another body part in there.
Well, that's why the Leonidas one is so perfect because the way her knee comes up like right into his crotch, and he's going wah.
This is Aaron. Do you not like the on-stuff love of Magneto? I don't know if they are or not. That's fine if they are. I did like the Onslaught stuff because, like I said, it was the last time in that I can remember in the 90s that they took years-long storytelling and gave you a payoff. Bishop came in X-Men 281. And like I said, he bought that future. He bought that possibility with him. He's like, one of you guys is a traitor. That was one of the reasons why it was so hard for Bishop to trust everyone, because he knew one of them was going to be betrayed. And they went years later, they went right to that footage. So in the part of the comic where Xavier is revealed to be, by the way, it's something that was bullshit that I think it was what ended up happening is it starts out, the whole onslaught starts out with the Juggernaut being knocked like across the ocean. And the whole thing up to that point is nothing can stop the Juggernaut. Well, something just knocked him on his ass, and it scared the shit out of him. And it ended up being Onslaught. And what he does to what the revelation of it is when he finds the Juggernaut again and he rips the Crimson Gem of Sidorak out of his chest. Well, if you know how, and it turns, turns K Marco into a normal man. If you know the mythos of it, it's not, he absorbed the gem. He absorbed, but it didn't matter. It was symbolic, and he's holding it, and it's the onslaught shape around him. He's saying, and he sends out a mental signal, "Come to me, my X-Men," which is the famous, Charles Xavier thing. But yeah, then you see the next issue where it's that same scene from 6 years earlier where they had Jean, and now you see the whole thing. You see it's Xavier coming after her, and after he's wiped out the X-Men. I love the Onslaught storyline. I don't like how it ended though, because he ends up going up against like everybody, and then Franklin Richards. He ends up it got out of hand. It was almost like the Infinity Stone saga. When Jim Starlin started the Infinity Saga, it was actually entertaining. It got dumb real quick. When it got big and it wasn't just Jim Starlin writing everything, it got dumb real quick. And it was one of those, let's make 1,000 different branch off. It was awful. But when Onslaught started, I loved Onslaught because it was a psyche. It was a study in the psyche, a further study in the psyche of both Magneto and Professor Xavier from a point of view that could never have been appreciated until they merged. So yeah, no, I liked it. And if that's where they're going, that's fine. Like I said, this is not my usual hate of the X-Men cartoon. I just think the moment for me is lost because of the context was lost. That's all. If you guys enjoyed it, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
By the way, Ruth had one she wanted me to bring up here. Let's see. William, I saw here a post about Sister Kim's Food Critic review her food rock.
Yeah, that was Keith Lee, and I was there when that happened. I didn't know who he was because, I'm not on TikTok all the time. But he's huge. He's huge. He gave him like a $3,000 tip that day.
Yeah, it sounds like he's also good.
Shut up. He's big, and ever since he came in and gave that review, they were doing okay before, but they were doing. You got to wait in the line, the Sister Kims now since he put that review out. That's how much sway he had. You got to wait. I used to be able to come in there, get my shit, come out, come back to this, right in the middle of the shows. I'd be coming back with my burger. I still am, but I got to wait. I got to call it head. You walk in, there's a line. It's packed. People are eating there. So I'm happy for them because you know what? I convinced them to go from the food truck to a brick and mortar. And for those of you who've ever ran a business, it's very scary that first year, those first couple of years. And to see these things, see it pay off for them, I'm happy. I'm happy that I could be any part of, let's see. What are we talking about here with Roman Cruz? Best written animated show. I listen. I'm going out of my way to watch this, so I can't really. I don't have anything to compare it with. So let's see. Yeah, and for a lot of people, X-Men '97 just is not going to be their thing. I mean, it's just Let's see. All right, so where are we at? So I'm just going through the chat. If you see anything you want to pick out, go ahead. I'm just going through.
Austin has one here about when I kind of like stepped into doo-doo a minute ago with that meme I showed over that fully thinking. 9/11 years is a tragic event, but after all these years, humor helps with pain. You're going to tell someone like Pete Davidson who dad dies in 9/11 to make those jokes. I wasn't aware his father died in the World Trade Center, Austin.
Pete Davidson has a unique license to tell those jokes that people out that are not him or those like him do.
Because I didn't follow his career until pretty recently, so I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware his father died during the attack on 9/11.
Yeah, when Pete Davidson, when somebody who's lost someone telling a joke about that, that he's not being flippant. He lived it. The humor is something else. When it's somebody, like I said, especially years removed of it, making that joke, it doesn't have the same gravity of a Pete Davidson who that is his life. So no, it's not the same thing. And like I said, it doesn't matter how many years removed of it. There are just certain things that that are just not. I don't think. Like I said, humor is subjective. I don't think will ever be funny. You could go hundreds of years. I could find you any point in human history that it's still not funny. We could, there are certain things you can bring up that are still not going to be funny. It's just. But once again, my humor is different.
Well, like
Now,
the meme.
now, as somebody who's representing the show, and that's my company name on the upper left, probably something I wouldn't put up.
Well, like what you're just saying there. I mean, like the meme or the one you have of Aaron, nailing Harvey Weinstein. I mean, a lot of people, would say it's like, oh yeah, rah rah, any takedown Weinstein is great, but I mean, again, I'm sure you could find people who would find that in poor taste. Where it's like, you're big. Who would? I'm not saying this is how I feel. I'm just saying you could probably find people who would say that is tantamount to a rape joke. It's like whether or not that there's veracity as is another question altogether. But it's like
that argument would dissolve when you look at the magnitude of September 11th, the world-changing loss of life of September 11th. They literally changed the course of our country. It's like I said, you could make a Cosby joke and it wouldn't be a rape joke. I've seen people make Jell-O pudding jokes and sleeping pudding jokes, but then when you think of the totality of 3,000 people, dying and like I said, launching in the historical. I don't think that the two could ever be compared. But like I said, I don't think the meme culture is stupid anyway. It's fun, but it's stupid. But I don't know if the weight of 9/11 should ever be made fun of it that way. But like I said, somebody might have laughed. Like I said, as somebody who's representing a brand, it's what you think funny is one thing, and what I think is funny, and then now I'm representing a brand. It's a different world we're in
that was my knee jerk kind of response. So if I offended anybody, I please, I do apologize for that. If it felt like that went kind of over line, because like I said, it's like my mind immediately went to again a Michael Moore documentary is the kind of the basis for the humor, more so the tragedy of that day. So yeah, if anybody feels like I kind of went overboard there, I do apologize for that.
Yeah, we live and learn. We know. William, what is the minimum box office you think this new Superman movie can endure?
Well, we were kind of going into this a little bit ago, so we were talking about like the box office versus PVOD kind of metric of it, and how that might even within the next year or so might it could create a scenario where like 300 million against 185 budget, and whatever it makes PVOD, that could be considered a success, which that absolutely would not be the case 10 years ago. But it's the world we live in now.
It all depends on where we're at in the summer of 2025 and where the industry is. I would say that, be honest with you, I hope that notwithstanding, I hope David Zaslav had an honest conversation with all involved, because I think that there's a potential for before streaming for the movie to lose money. Because I do think that you have to go all out with the marketing, so that's gonna be an inflated budget. I don't think you can cut corners on this, so you CGI, all that's gonna cost you money, but you cannot skip on it. To me, the money, the overall intake of it on streaming and all that will, I think, justify a lot of things. But if they go into it with the understanding that there's a chance that they could lose money, this is the establishing step. You will get to the point where you will be able to measure that money and make it to where you need it to be. But right now, you got to look at where you got to read the room. You got to read the DC room. And right now, it's not a very cool place. You got to make it cool again, and that's going to probably cost you.
And it's not a cool place largely through their own decision making.
Yeah, but it can happen. But I think it's going to. I don't think you're going to see. Personally, I don't think this is going to be a blockbuster movie. I don't think you're going to see that that type of movie. But if it does well on streaming, if it does well on PVOD, and it's actually a solid movie, then you move forward. I think that's what you do. So,
yeah, I think that's that pretty well. And there was another thing I was going to tack onto that. I kind of lost my train of thought. Let me see if I can get that back.
Yeah, you're allowed to criticize stuff. Yeah, that's what being a fan is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, what was I about to tack on there? The whole box office discussion. Oh, damn it. I mean, it kind of relates to what I was saying a minute ago about how, a lot of these things that within the last 2 years, where we're in theaters a month and on PVOD after that. It's like they're looked at now as bombs, but if we fast forward 5 years when that becomes you that becomes all but commonplace. It's like, are we going to look back on that and say, yeah, these things actually, when you measure it by that, these were the beginning of that, and now applying that measuring stick that we didn't necessarily know we had at the time, these things actually performed very well in their totality. Things like Black Adam, things like the Flash, things like Blue Beetle, things like the Marvels, and even like what. And even like what else? I mean, it's taking superheroes out of the equation. I mean, like I said, last year was. I mean, when you look at theaters, I mean, it was a handful of hits and mostly underperforms and bombs otherwise. But again, with the shortened window from theaters to PVOD, once you take that into context, and once we kind of come to the understanding, yeah, that was beginning, within the the immediate post-COVID world, and now would we fast forward 5-6 years, and we see that with almost everything. It's going to change the conversation, not just in the present, but also retroactively, I think.
I use fourth line, and I did, but William doesn't even take it serious. Yeah, dude, we're gonna. But you keep changing these damn picks, by the way. Every time you bring them up, there Terrifier was not. Oh, I don't believe was Terrifier one of his. I know what Kira was. He did,
I don't know who's I think I think Akira was like, everybody, once they heard I hadn't seen it, said, "Oh, Brad's got to see it." So that was kind of like a collective thing.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't matter what people think of Madam Web. Bad movies and genre take a toll on genre.
I mean, it's like, okay,
hold on.
Did that ever stop them with the Transformers franchise? Because those always got horrible reviews.
You aren't qualified to tell a corporation that's making profit that they're incompetent. You're an outsider, just like me. If they made a profit, by definition, that's not incompetent. So, that is your opinion, and that's fine. But that's not a qualified opinion. That's just an opinion. That's not. That statement. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I just remember the point I was going to make when you're talking about because you were talking about they need to, as far as like the resources they're going to put into this with Superman and with the DCU movies, and you've talked before about like you can't do discount DC, and that's looking back, that really when you look at how Hamada came into the equation and how he came to be running DC Films. I mean, the impetus was after Justice League 2017, tanked. The idea behind the scenes basically was, okay, let's bring our budgets down so we can we can make a good profit without having to break the bank to do it. And but you've said like that's like, and I definitely agree here. Like that was the fatal flaw. It's like you can't skimp on the resources you need for these characters in this universe and expect long term for that to bear the kind of fruit you need, because as we saw that play out in real time, where they were like when Birds of Prey came out. I mean that was heralded, so much. It's like, this is the future of the franchise. It got a pretty strong reception, but again, it's like, I mean, nobody went to the movie, so their decision making was like, we can do this discount DC universe where we're keeping our heavy hitters and our our big mainline team on the bench, and like pretending the movie people are either clamoring for, or once it comes out is really where Steve doesn't exist. Then we could just set all that aside, just rely on what we can get away with on the cheapest budget possible. And that was the thinking at the time in that in the Hamada era. And I mean, that was what sunk that regime, because it's like you can't sustain that with these characters, with this IP. And that's you just have to hope that under the Zaslav regime that thinking has been abandoned. But I guess we're gonna have to see what happens with that.
No, Austin, simply because when you look at BVS, it's you're talking about adapting a storyline. You literally call it Fatal Attraction, and you're literally doing something in that's famous for that storyline. It's not the same as what BVS was, because BVS was adapting. He took elements. He took familiar elements, but the story in BVS was always its own thing. The Fatal Attractions isn't. Fatal Attractions is an adaptation of a pre-existing story. I mean, Yes, Droga, I know it's an adaptation, but once again, what are you adapting? There's only so many things you can change before it's not an adaptation anymore. And it's not just an adaptation in name. It's just that you just can't throw that around. There are things there is weight to the story that was originally told that I just didn't see there. But once again, it's my opinion. You guys can take it or leave it. Dark humor. Like I said, for me, there will never be a point where I think that those type of jokes about 9/11 will ever be funny. It's just never going to happen. It's I don't I don't see that as humor. That's just my point of view. But like I said, humor is subjective. But what is not subjective is how I want the channel represented. Do I want we do a lot of things that in poor taste, as for fun. But once again, when it comes to mass casualties, mass situations in modern history that led to thousands of people dying in any point in history, to be honest with you, obviously you would never see a Holocaust meme or a joke on here. You know what? It's just not going to happen. It just I wouldn't. There's just a certain way, a tone that that's representative and indicative of the channel. You might find it funny, and you all have platforms to express that humor on. This is not the one.
Yeah, this is where I'm trying to walk that back. It's like, again, I had a knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, that's a good meme, and then to realize, oh yeah, look at that in context. So yeah, I do want to apologize for that, everybody. If anybody found that going too far.
Okay, so I'm getting down to the bottom. Wow, this is a lot of comment.
Yeah. Well, it was basically me when I brought that meme up, so you can technically blame Brad tonight for that.
There you go. Should Mr. Sinister be the villain of the first X-Men MCU?
Or do him sooner or later? They keep teasing him, and that we don't see him. What the hell?
To me, I don't think so. But maybe as long as you get to Apocalypse, because he's a threat that could threaten not just mutant kind, he's a threat that can threaten everything. And you've already got the pieces in places. Preferably me, I would go with Apocalypse. But if you gave me Mr. Sinister and Apocalypse literally walk hand in hand as far as their existence and who, how, and what. So I wouldn't mind Mr. Sinister. Magneto. I'd have to see a script. I wouldn't even mind seeing Magneto first, because Magneto is historically the first villain that they faced. He appeared. He's the first person they ever faced. X-Men #1. He's on the cover. He's been historically, and maybe Magneto because he represents the beginning of the conflict of mutant kind and what the X-Men are there for. So I wouldn't mind either way. How you doing, Josh F?
Anthony has a good one here. William Brad, if you guys were the head of DC at the time, the other universe, how would you guys have done DC in the style of what you would have done, of what you saw with Marvel? I'm not sure I understand the question here.
Let me try.
Are you saying? Okay.
Because it's kind of me. William and Brad, if you were the head of DC at the time of the other universe, so it's DCU, I think you're saying, would you guys have done DC in the style of what you saw with Marvel? No. I would change my mind. Every meeting I would have, I would be using that to get rid of the people who could not think outside the Marvel bubble. If you refer to Marvel, you want to refer to their structure and all that, the business structure, and there are certain aspects of the MCU that you could adopt. That's fine
on a business level, but it's like as far as like storytelling, a universe building,
storytelling apparatus, the genesis of the characters are different. I would have probably the tone. I would have probably spent the first year just making sure that I had people who could think about DC and exclusively DC, and then I would break my first move. But
hell no. It's like we're not. I mean, we again, that's another thing with the Humpday regime. It's like, we'll just and this is not a knock on the individual movies. The majority of which I really like within the DCEU, both with and without Zack Snyder's under the stewardship of his tenure, but. As far as like the management of the franchise, the idea it's like, we'll make a cheap. We're trying to like manage just like a cheaper version of Marvel. Yeah, that's not going to work. it's proven it's not going to work. So hell no, I wouldn't do that.
I don't have any inside information, but
I don't know. I've seen some of this floating around, but it's like yeah, it's internet rumor.
I'm
So.
gonna bet yes. I would bet yes. I'm not saying that on any information, but I would bet yes on this one. And by the way, anybody who thinks that The Rock is this person you can't work with and all that, got people lining up to work with him. He's going to do just fine. All right. I care about politics, Droga, but like I said, I also have to create a space that everybody can come to. They deal with that stuff in their normal lives and activism in their normal lives. I am a very political person, but I have created this space that is open to everybody, and it can't be open to everybody if we end up having a conversation go that route. It's just certain people are just not going to feel that they're welcome here, and I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah, same.
All right.
I mean, you can count on one hand. I think how many times we've talked about the fact that this is an election year on this channel, and that's the way I know Wing wants to keep it, and so do I.
Yeah, especially when now on my other platforms like my Facebook page, things like that, I roast motherfuckers all day long. But that's my Facebook page. That is not a that is a page where I selectively let people in. But this is a spot that is open to you guys. And regardless to what your politics are, I want you to feel at the end of the day you can come here and have and just take the load off. But if you were able to step into my other spaces, yeah, there's no filter there, and you will know immediately upon coming to those platforms how I feel about who and what and where. So, but this isn't that spot, so we leave it there. Like I said, wrong is a point of view, and you would know what that point of view is, of course, because you're wrong all the time.
Yeah, Droga sent me another meme. It's not tragedy related. Okay, I don't know if I should show it or not. It's not like gross or anything, but it's just weird. Yeah, I'll go ahead and show it. Don't worry, it's not one of his more whack. It's just, yeah. So I guess we know who's it's not Pedro Pascal. It's gonna be James Gunn who's gonna be Mr. Fantastic. And you know what's see because I've seen this picture of him floating around before his hair turned white. And something about this, he doesn't look like James Gunn in this picture. He looks more like anybody ever familiar with that one producer Brian Grazer? He looks more like him in that. I don't see James Gunn in this. I see Brian Grazer. For whatever reason. Just me. Just me. William doesn't have thoughts on it at all,
though. It's the moment is inspired by that. Yeah.
Well, it's not playing for laughs, though.
Yeah, we're not. It's not a meme. You know, see, with the whole point of a meme pretty much is to be stupid, and to be there's no real attachment to the weight of what's going on. That's that's the comedy in it. But like I said, when you reach, like there's like to me personally, I'm not a fan of if somebody's died tragically or their life's been cut short. I look at memes as a reflection, and I'm like, you put that out there, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna move on from you. If somebody's life has been cut, I have my own internal rules. I think that one porn star guy that's sitting at the edge of the bed, he's dead. It's not funny. He died young from whatever the thing is, and people use that meme and they use it on everything. It's like, that's what we've become, though. That's what we are today, though. We do things via virtual and pictures and things like that because there's no consequences and there's no attachment. You could say something like that and, make fun of somebody who's, gone, dead, died tragically, and there's no consequences like there was back before all this happened. You know what I mean? It's just what it is. We're connected, but we're disconnected at the same time to where certain things that would have just never been, you would have never even, some of these memes, if there were consequences in circulation and all that, as you got that on your page, okay, all right. So that's your history. So, but everybody's different. All right, I think that I think we've covered a lot of ground, some of which I didn't want to cover, but we did. We did. Hey, listen, we're all learning how we all want to exist in this space. I'm not going to blame anybody who thought, you didn't know, you didn't know my standards, and you didn't.
Yeah.
Some of you
Yeah,
may not
sorry
have
about that,
not
guys.
felt the way. So I'm not. That's I mean, everybody gets their amnesty. But for going forward, it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I had no problem explaining it to you though, because I do understand that right now, 9/11 is so. Like I said, there are a lot of you that literally
It's
were not
20.
born.
It's God. That's so crazy for me to think. That was 23 years ago now, or
Yeah,
coming off of that in September.
So I don't, so you didn't have the context to understand just how, that would land, but now you do. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, one thing I'm going to bring up real quick before we sign off is one question Aaron had that sort of. Have you heard the latest? There could be a Sony Apollo Paramount merger.
Yeah,
I
we've
have not.
discussed this a couple of different times. They have entered the 30-day window to negotiate. I don't know if it's going to happen because a lot of the shareholders, including the primary one, does not want the company broken up. So I don't know if they have the votes to make this happen. Now it's a $26 billion offer starting at, which means you can get more. So maybe that could change things. But you know, I don't know how it's going to come about. I mean, maybe there's more money on the table, but that's 26 billion in cash, not stock options, not anything else like that. Not giving you, that's outright money. We hit the button, we fucking Venmo you, do whatever the hell people want to do. That's hard money. So that may be hard to turn down. But like I said, you will most likely see this thing split up, and I know there are stockholders who do not want to see that. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. All right. So
And
you asked.
Murphy, you got anything else you want to say for our audience tonight before we come here? You gonna sniff in my ear for everybody to see again?
William, the new 52 caused huge controversy in DC, where it pushed people away from DC for a few years. Did Marvel have a storyline controversial? Not really. Not any one particular storyline that was like that.
I think Spider-Man probably it would like the saga and the One More Day. He's probably the closest I can think of in a comparison to like the reaction.
But
God, One More Day got oh man, did I get a backlash?
Yeah, but it sold a crap ton of copies though. Whereas, and it led to something. I think Secret Wars. I think a lot of people didn't really necessarily like Secret Wars, maybe, but nothing. With the new 52, the point was DC had done this before. DC keeps doing this, and it just keeps shaking that connection. It's like you're holding on to DC with a chain, and every time they do these disruptions, it's like the guy shaking you off. It's like you're trying to hold on to something there, and they're not leaving you a lot to hold on to, and they do it over and over again. So, all right, yeah, we read your last comment there, Anthony, and so that's it. That was a weird show.
Yes, very Traw stream, Ruth.
Yeah, whatever tribe, whatever tribe means. I guess
we gotta. This has got to be there's got to be a way to merchandise Traw. It's like because nobody else is saying it. It's like there's got to be a way to trademark it.
All right, so I know I've been pretty lax on reminding you guys about having a tool like this available to you. 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Maybe because I didn't want to bring the mood down, but hey, you know what we're about. We've put our and your money and our time where our mouths are. So it's a truly genuine cause. If you know somebody who's going through it right now, and you don't think you're qualified to help them, which most of us are not, get them to somebody. That's important thing is that they get the help from somebody. All right, guys. I may not be on the air tomorrow simply because I may take in a late screening of Planet of the Apes. If I do, then the next time you see me would be on Friday and I will over Thursday. I'm going to figure out how to do this Patreon thing because, like I said, on the one side, I don't want to exclude our normal viewers, but at the same time, what's the point of a Patreon membership if
you're not getting something?
If I never give you something of value, especially for some of you who are on the. So I'm gonna sit with myself and then my technical advisor, that dude Vince. We'll figure out something that makes it. In the meantime, join the Patreon. That helps. That helps the decision.
And join our
Here it
Discord
is.
too if you join our Tra community on Discord if you haven't already.
Yeah, by the way,
Sorry.
Vince, please send me that link because I lost the link and it's not on our. It's on our description. So.
Well, I mean, also perfect comment to end that.
I'm ignoring.
Holding the DCU.
I'm gonna have a buzzer for you guys. You know, whenever you come up with this crazy shit, I can just buzz the fuck out of you and just like leave it on there. So, all right, guys, that is it. I will see you the next time I see you.
All right, later, guys.